Welcome to the Aviation Insurance Podcast, the podcast that helps aircraft owners and aviation businesses learn and understand the complex world of aviation insurance and risk management. From the basic principles of aviation insurance to risk management techniques and updates on the aviation insurance market, the Aviation Insurance Podcast is your guide to traverse the world of aviation insurance. Now, here's your host, Tim Bonnell.
Well, welcome to the Aviation Insurance Podcast, where we talk about some of the fundamentals of aviation insurance. And today, I want to talk about an issue that is very current. This is being recorded around December of 2022. And we have come through a couple of years of a pandemic, and we're in a post-pandemic state that has led to a number of issues related to created by supply chain challenges and inflation. And so today, I just want to talk about how that is impacting aviation insurance. So what we have seen through the pandemic is an increased need and usage and desire for private or general aviation. And so we've seen increased aircraft sales and all the things that go with an increased demand for general aviation. All the service providers are busier and so on and so forth. So there has been just a general increase in demand for aviation. And as you know, just one of the principles of economics is supply and demand. When there's a lot of demand, sometimes the supply can become a bigger challenge and the cost can go up. So I want to talk about some aviation insurance specific issues. And one of the first ones of those is that with all the demand for new aircraft, the cost of aircraft have increased significantly for most aircraft make and models. It's certainly not the case for all, but if you have not reviewed your insured amount or your whole value, the value you're insuring the aircraft for, it has likely increased significantly in the last couple of years. And how much, that just depends. How can you tell? Well, sometimes the Blue Book or the VREF can be behind the power curve just because of how rapidly this is changing. I believe they've been catching up, but you can look at those. You can also look at what similarly equipped and timed make and models are going for with some of the aircraft sales publications or online versions of those publications. And best of all, you can contact a professional aircraft appraisal to get the most accurate value for your aircraft. But otherwise, you don't want to under-insure your aircraft because that could lead to your aircraft being totaled on a partial loss when it could have easily been repaired and leaving you without the proper value for that aircraft. And you certainly don't want to overinsure it as well. We've had other issues, other episodes related to insuring your aircraft to proper value, so I'm not going to repeat that. But it's very important to revisit your whole value due to these increased costs, this inflation, and the increased values that most aircraft have experienced. Number two, there has been challenges in getting many parts. The parts inventory and the costs associated them with have been a real challenge because of the supply chain issues that have gone on the last couple of years. So for those people who carry inventory, spare parts, stock of various kinds, really need to look at how much you are carrying. A lot of operations have taken on additional spares, additional parts, additional stock and inventory. And so the value of what they are storing has increased significantly. And that can be in the hundreds and in some cases, even millions of dollars. And so it is important that that is addressed via, the proper insurance policy to make sure either the spares or a property policy for your contents there and tools are covered. So that increased stock or the increased inventory, increased spare parts, that is a growing exposure where people have a bigger exposure than they did a couple of years ago, and it's something that needs to be revisited. Next, with the parts availability and challenges, is that aircraft that are damaged are sitting on the ground longer. So if you are the operator of a damaged aircraft, you may be without an aircraft that you expect to generate revenue. So that's a challenge that really can't be insured. But on the other side of it, there is increased cost. There's increased liability issues with third-party liability claims. So if you damage someone else's aircraft, that aircraft may sit on the ground longer waiting for parts. I have heard of numerous parts taking months and longer to come in for people. And so the longer the aircraft that was damaged is sitting on the ground, the more expensive that liability claim becomes. In addition, the parts cost more in most cases. So not only do we have aircraft on the ground longer, but just the parts to fix and replace them are much higher in value and cost. So that is an additional cost that is driving up liability costs and consequently the losses to the insurers. Combine this with the increased cost of labor that has come on in the last couple of years. Labor rates have increased. The cost of hiring and maintaining employees has increased. So there too, the cost to fix, regardless of the parts, have increased. So all these supply chain and inflation issues are driving the cost of liability awards up. It's making losses more significant to aviation insurers, which at the end of the day will have an impact on rates for everyone. So these issues are something that will hopefully come under control soon. And then finally, we continue to see liability awards increase. Aviation just seems to draw very large catastrophic losses in some cases, and that has not stopped in this post-pandemic time. And so liability awards continue to increase. And again, that has a negative impact on the aviation insurance community and the rates that are required to keep everyone going. So those are just a few issues that I wanted to highlight today that are new. They're new in the last couple of years. This new demand for general and private aviation, private air travel, all of the increased costs, the supply chain issues leading to increased inventory, stock, and spare parts that are new, the liability issues due to the increased cost of labor, the increased parts, the lack of parts availability, and just the fact that the liability awards keep increasing. Those go along with all the other complicating factors to provide challenges to the aviation insurance industry. But fortunately, we do have a professional industry that continues to seek how to spread risk and to obtain cover at the best possible rate. Well, that's all for this episode. Join us again next time as we continue navigating the waypoints in aviation insurance. Until then, enjoy clear skies and unlimited visibility.
Thanks for listening to the Aviation Insurance Podcast. If you found this episode of value, please share it with someone who would benefit from this information. Don't forget to subscribe in your podcast player so you don't miss any new episodes and to help our show have more impact. This episode is brought to you by Aeris Insurance Solutions, your flight plan for navigating the turbulence of aviation insurance. For more information, visit aerosinsurance.com. That is www.aerisinsurance.com. Disclaimer: these episodes are for educational purposes only, and due to the changing regulatory and legal nature of the business, some information may change over time. Having a well-educated and experienced aviation insurance broker on your team is an absolute requirement to success in business and for managing your aircraft and aviation business risks.